You're listening to the Messengers of Hope Mission podcast with your host, Bob Gardner.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Glistening Glass. Glistening Glass is my company and is a residential window washing and gutter cleaning company. We service the northern Hillsborough and southwest Pasco County area. If you're interested in having your home windows or gutters cleaned, now is the time to call. 813-404-2300. That's Glistening Glass.
So today I'm going to share part 3 of the banana story. Even though it's kind of diverged away from the banana story, it all revolves around that same timeline and that same group of people and that same area. So this happened a little bit later on. There was a gentleman that was coming to our food pantry, and he was showing up every week. You know, he had a wife and kids, and oftentimes what will happen is when someone shows up for the first time, they're really nervous. First time they show up to a food pantry, they're really nervous, and they feel like they have to give you an explanation of why they're there. And hey, I get it. I understand. You know, you're nervous. This is not something that you want to do. You don't want to have to go and take out handouts. You want to be able to provide for your own family. Well, this gentleman showed up, and of course, you know, he shared his story with me, and I listen every single time, as long as I have the time to do it, and I'm not working on getting the pantry ready. I take the time and I listen to what people have to say, because to them, it's extremely important. No matter how many times I've heard the same story or similar story, it's very important to them. So I listened to this gentleman's story, and he basically described himself and his wife both losing their job, and they were struggling to make ends meet. They were able to keep their home, but it was just a struggle, and getting their kids to school. They were taking part-time work wherever they could, and this went on. He came sometimes with his wife, sometimes just by himself, and they got food just about every week that we were open. Now, this went on for many months, where they were showing up, and one day I just noticed that he wasn't there. He always came up and said hello to me, which oftentimes people will do. They see us as friends and family, and we are. We try to be friends and family with everyone there. And this gentleman was no different. He wanted to be able to talk and share and just listen to what we had to say as well. So every week, he came, and then I just noticed this one week he wasn't there, and the next week he wasn't there, and the week after that he wasn't there. Now, oftentimes when this happens, it's one of three things. One is they found a job and they don't need our assistance anymore. Two, they've had to move someplace else. Or three, they found another place maybe closer to where they live that they have found a source of food, so they don't come to us anymore. Uh, you know, Obviously, we like it when people succeed and find a job and are able to get back on their feet, and they don't have to come and get food from us anymore. It's kind of sad when they just gone to a different place or they moved away. We miss them in that case. But we love to hear the success stories. Sometimes people come and share with us. They'll come back and visit and just say, "Hey, we've gotten back on our feet. Thank you so much for all you've done." Well, this gentleman had been gone for a few months, and he came back one Sunday, and he came up to me. He goes, "Hey, Bob, I just want to let you know I'm not here for food today. I just wanted to share something with you." And I said, "All right, I'm all ears." Hoping for like really good news. And he goes, "First, I'm working again." He goes, "I got a job. It's even better than my last one. My wife is still working part time, but we're back on our feet." And he goes, "But that's not what I want to tell you." And I like, okay, hopefully it's even better news than that. And he said that one day he was driving home from work. His wife and kids were out that day. I can't remember if they were visiting family or whatever the case may be. He was on his own for dinner that night, and he decided to stop at McDonald's and get a few cheeseburgers for dinner. And as he's driving home, a few blocks from his house, he sees someone sleeping on the sidewalk. They had their duffel bag, and they had that as a pillow, and they had their jacket over them, and they were sound asleep on the sidewalk. Well, he said to himself, and this is exactly what he told me. He said to himself, what would messengers of hope do in this situation? So he said, I pulled over and I walked up to him with the cheeseburgers, and I sat down. I said, "Hey, are you hungry?" And I shared my cheeseburgers with the guy, and we talked for a while, and I found out that this guy had moved down to Florida and had lost his job that he was supposed to be here for. And because he lost his job, he didn't have a place to live. And now he's trying to find work. But of course, trying to find work when you don't have an address is extremely difficult. So after talking with him for a while, he said, I decided to take matters in my own hand. I said, listen, behind my house, we have a garage, and behind the garage, there's a small area. If you want, you can pitch a tent back there, and you can stay there until you get back on your feet. Because behind the garage, there's a spigot, so at least you'll have water, and you can clean up, and you can use our address, so you can list that as your place of residence. So hopefully you can find a job. So this guy took him up on the offer and moved out in the yard behind his garage, and he lived there for quite some while. And this gentleman that was sharing the story said, he was there for a couple months, and one day he walked up to my house and knocked on the door, and I answered, and he handed me an envelope, and the envelope had $200 in it. He says, listen, it's not much, but I want to give you something for letting me stay here. And he said, it's not necessary. He goes, no, no, no. I want you to have this. Please take this money. He goes, if nothing else, they'll cover my water that I've been using. So the guy reluctantly took it and said, thank you. And the gentleman that was staying in the yard said, I'm going to have more for you next week as well. And he goes, that's not really necessary. He goes, no, it is necessary. I want to do it. So the next week, of course, the guy came and he brought him $200 more. And he did this for a few weeks in a row. And then he said, one week he came up with the envelope and he says, listen, this is going to be the last $200 I can give you because I've gotten an apartment. I found a job. Obviously, I've been paying you, but I found an apartment and I'm moving in and I wanted to just really thank you. And the guy that was relaying the story to me, the one that had gotten back on his feet and helped this other gentleman get back on his feet, said, I've never had that kind of feeling in my life. Even when I got back on my feet, it was nothing like helping somebody else get back on their feet. He goes, it was just a wonderful thing. My wife and I celebrated that week. And he says, we found out where the guy lived and we took the $200 that he had paid us that week and we bought him a housewarming gift and we remain friends to this day. Now, this took place like 2-3 years ago now. So, and I haven't seen this gentleman again since then, but I can only imagine that he is doing well and the people that the guy that he helped is doing well. And just there's story after story after story like this that I can share, and I will be sharing those in upcoming podcasts. So after sharing the banana story, which is the story of that family living in a single-wide trailer, the number one question I get is what happened to that family? That family did move. About a year or two later, they moved to a different trailer in a different neighborhood. That was a little bit nicer, a little bit bigger, so they had more room. And they kept coming to Messengers of Hope Food Pantry for quite some time after that. And then they had the husband, the father of the four kids, and the wife both had gotten new jobs, and they moved down south. I'm not exactly sure where, somewhere in Clearwater, if I remember correctly. They moved down south and they bought their own home, and I believe the grandparents still live in the area, but I'm not even 100% sure on that. It's been a while since we've seen them. I just know that last I had talked to them, they were doing well and they were back on their feet. So, people ask all the time, is it kind of chronic when people come get food? Do they get food forever? Do they keep coming every week? Do they ever work their way out of poverty? And the answer is yes. Unfortunately, the poverty level in the United States, people move in and out of all the time. It's not a stagnant thing. People move from lower class to middle class and middle class to lower class, from upper class to middle class and middle class to upper class all the time. It happens as a fluctuating thing. Despite what anything in the news that you might hear, that's the way poverty and riches work. They are a fluctuating thing. So we do get to see people for a while. We get to know them, and we're always happy and celebrate whenever they get on their feet. And I can't tell you how many times people get back on their feet and then they want to give back by helping others or by donating food to Messengers of Hope. There's always an amazing story that we get to be a part of whenever something like that happens.
In this week's news for Messengers of Hope Mission, we'll be holding a Thanksgiving food drive November 12th. That's a Sunday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Odessa at the Phi Delta Kappa Fraternity Banquet Hall. That's right off of State Route 54 next to Vallarta's Mexican restaurant. The great thing about the November food drive is if you donate a turkey or a ham or a $15 grocery store gift card, we'll give you a Messengers of Hope t-shirt for free. The food drive again will be November 12th from 11 to 2 p.m. Also, we have started our annual toy and gift drive for the holidays. We need new unwrapped gifts for children between the age of 0 and 17 years old. Please consider giving some gifts to Messenger Hope Mission for children whose families struggle even more at this time of the year. We'll also take used, good working, good condition, clean video game systems and video games to give out. Okay, everyone, this is the point of the podcast where I get to make an appeal to you, the listener. Messengers of Hope is in need of volunteers to come help work at our warehouse. We have jobs as easy as sorting food and toiletries, items like light cleaning, all the way up to lifting and stacking of boxes. If you live in the greater Tampa Bay area and want to serve with Messengers of Hope, reach out today. Go to our Facebook page and message us directly. If you're not local or do not have the ability to volunteer at Messengers of Hope Warehouse, you can still make an impact. Messengers of Hope is in need of financial gifts. Donations are tax deductible as Messengers of Hope is a registered 501c3 nonprofit. You can go to our Facebook page and find an online donation portal or get the address and mail us a check. Any amount helps more than you may think. That's going to do it for this week's Messengers of Hope Mission podcast. In the words of Mother Teresa, if you can't feed 100 people, feed just one. This is Bob Gardner reminding you to make a difference in our world today. See you next time right here on the Messengers of Hope Mission podcast.